Guys, welcome back to AZ Triumphster. Well, where we left things off last time was I was compressing the shock, the spring, so I could take off the eyelet, get the spring coated, get the codlin extension, and so on and so on. So, man, a lot has happened in the last couple weeks. So, with the original setup with this top plate, it was too big. The opening was too big. It was not set up for a remote preload adjuster. So we had to cut a new top plate that was a smaller opening so we could actually compress the spring. The other thing was the original entire tool was too short because the fat bob rear shock is taller than your standard, your street bob, your heritage, your slim, etc. So I had to get longer round stock to lengthen the tool. When all that was done, I was able to compress it far enough to break the locking nut loose and take the eyelet off, unload the spring, take the spring off, order the codlin extension, and so the codlin extension is just over about an inch long. The piece itself. And so what I did was when the codlin piece came in, I went ahead and affixed it to the spring was at the powder coater, so I went ahead and affixed the extension to the shock portion of it, and got a total length measurement, and then I went ahead and started elevating the rear of the motorcycle to match that length so I could get an idea of the profile and what the new ride height was going to be. This is very interesting. So I'm doing this, and I'm jack it up a little bit, measure, jack it up a little bit more, measure, and there's a point where I'm measuring and the length isn't getting any longer. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I look, and the rear wheel is off the ground, and I can spin the rear wheel freely, and it's like, okay, what is going on here? What is it? What's this thing getting caught up on? So I look, and I did not realize this, but there are bump stops built into the frame on the Softails. Now, you could run the codlin extension on a slim or a street bob or a standard or even a lowrider S prior to the newest model, the S and the ST, like I think it's 2022, without an issue, because they come with the shorter shock. The fat bob, and then now the new lowrider S and ST, it's a different story. So I tried everything. I even took off the locking nut that you would use for the eyelet, and I threaded on the codlin extension as far as it would go, and even then it was what appeared to be about a 1/4 inch too long. There was just no way around it. And I looked at videos on YouTube where guys had taken a grinder and ground off the bump stops, and I'm like, okay, the bike's still under warranty. I'm not messing with that. That's definitely not something I want to do. So now I had bought the codlin extension from Revzilla, and everything on the Revzilla website, and I did my due diligence. It all said that this part, the codlin extension, fit this bike. So I reached out and talked to their customer service, and they asked for some pictures and whatnot, and I did. I sent those things, and I'm always very skeptical when it comes to customer service, especially nowadays. But it turns out that skepticism was not justified, because they took care of me. I mean, they said, "Yep, looks like we didn't have it listed as to not fit that model," and they sent me a return label, and I sent it back. And now I know Revzilla has a very strict return policy, so I was like, I'd rather not have store credit because there's nothing from them that I'm, terribly interested in at this time other than this coddling extension, which doesn't fit. So they did right by me and they refunded me. So as soon as I confirmed the refund was good and that's what they were doing and the money was back, I went ahead and fired off an order to another company, but not before verifying with them that their extension worked for this bike. I did so by asking, hey, when I install this link on the factory shock, how much length does it add into total length? And they said 5/8. And I was like, okay, I think I can work with that. They said it's adjustable. You probably can't see here, but there's a pretty lengthy threaded part that you thread the end eyelet onto, so I assume that's what they mean by adjustable. They said 5/8, and I'm like, okay, that I can work with. That company was Bung King, very responsive, confirmed what I needed to confirm, and then I asked what their lead time was. They said they had it in stock, it would ship within 1 to 2 days, so I went ahead and fired the order off to them. And it came in, and I test fitted everything, and it looks like I am going to be able to run this Bung King extension, and it's true. So what I can do is, what I did is I elevated the bike to the point that the wheel came off the ground. Then I brought it back down, so then it was off the bump stops. I put the Bung King extension on here, set it in the bike with the bolts in, verified that at that point it was a little bit shorter, so I was able to thread it off 2 full turns and have it line up exactly with that. So that's essentially what I'm going to do, and it adds about 5/8 or so length to the total length for the shock. So I'm curious to see how this all lands, because when you look at a bike like the Street Bob or the Standard or the Slim or even the Lowrider S 2021 prior, and you're like, I want to get that Dyna Gap, which really you'd have to go really above and beyond to do that, but with bolt-on part, the coddling one's the way to do that. Being that extension is over 1 inch long, you really get the most out of that for about $150 after shipping and tax. The Bung King one is shorter, and it's a little bit less expensive, $120, $130, but now this video becomes more of a question of, is it worth it? So let's finish getting this thing installed, the eyelet, get this thing out of this shock compressor, and work on getting it back in the bike and see how it all kind of pans out. Okay, the install's done, and I think it's pretty obvious that the bike is taller. I mean, just alone, it leans over on the side stand that much further. I love that you can see not only the extension piece, the aluminum, but the white spring now. I think that looks so cool. Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely taller. I threw my leg over it briefly, and definitely feels taller in the seat too. I haven't ridden it yet. That'll be another video. That'll be the next video, hopefully. But just from the aesthetics aspect, I would say it's worth it. The profile, I can't really get a. You know what? Let me back the bike out so I can get a better backed out profile. There, that's better. That just looks so sick. All that space under the rear fender, the lower seam through a lower line of the tank being perfectly horizontal. It looks so good. So the only real sacrifice in this whole thing, other than footing if you're a short rider, is this P-clamp that affixed right here and held your brake line and your ABS sensor. There's just too much tension with it, still attached. So not a big deal. It's definitely enough flex in it in its current setup. And then the other thing is I may need to get the belt tension adjusted. It's a little bit tight now, which I'm sure I could do myself, or maybe I'm close enough to my next service that I could just have them do it wherever I take it. But so there you have it. As it stands right now, with the bike done and having spent the time, it was fulfilling. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, like I said, from the aesthetics aspect, I would say it's worth it. But I haven't ridden it yet, and that's the next video. And I'll take you guys along with me on that, and we'll see how it handles. Until next time, guys, just stay safe out there.